I got the mic. Okay, this is my group here. I guess this is mostly, which department? Art? Education department. So number A, can DSU succeed at change? And our group discussed the need to know more about the university, the need for consistent, regular, and clear data, a better understanding of the history of what we're talking about with respect to the change, understanding the systems and the processes and the protocols involved in this, and separate constructive feedback from the noise, from the naysayers, from the folks that will put a negative spin on the change that is being advocated. Am I doing off the ones we did? Am I
Yeah,
doing off?
just, and give me the document, because we're going to have some accountability here. You finished?
Well, I still got everything as written down on there, on the same page.
Okay, but does it address all of the questions?
A, B, and D. We got
Okay,
to.
those are the two you got too. Okay, let me have those, please. Okay, who's going to go next? Go ahead. Take the mic. Thanks.
Justin Alexander, Education Chess. So what we looked at, we divided everything based on A, B, and C as instructed. So we looked at systems from a systemic point of view as well as the individual running the system or operating the systems. So we focused on first identifying and prioritizing the systems that have the largest impacts, starting more so from the top on down. And then within a 12-month space, collecting and analyzing the data from priority systems, looking at it from an institution as a whole, and then looking at it from the departmental perspective. And then within 24 months, revising, modifying, and then reprioritizing those systems and assessing all of the data collected. And then our final question that we came to was identifying when do we come back together and reconvene as a whole.
You want to answer that one? You want to answer that one, or are you asking the question?
Asking the question.
Okay, when you think it should happen?
In the next 90 days.
Okay. All right, who's next? Let's make sure the mic gets to the next person. She's ready. Right there.
So for A, I think we came to an agreement that implementation of new ideas and technologies in the campus can be a challenge here. And then for B, we have all the tools needed to be succeeded, but the optimum opportunity is to align all the tools to work cooperatively and work towards to achieve a common goal. And C is the lack of communication among the offices that support research and academic activities. That's it. To put in a common language, the tools don't talk each other. So we need to straighten that.
Can you indicate what question you answered?
And for the D, organizing events and trainings, which shows that the DSU administration is open for challenge, open for change and improvement. No, so I think the short, what we are lacking is no lead personnel or staff reporting or no support systems developed. So no problem pinpointed for the resolution. So that is we came to agreement. And then E should be a periodic and quantifiable goals should be set and aligned at different levels. Findings should be requested for such change. For short term, yeah, for immediate. Yeah. So we are lack of staff in many offices. I think when we fill the staff, we can able to achieve and align the toolboxes together. I think that's all I have.
Thanks. Who's next? I'll go. just say this, please make sure that the piece of paper you're giving me has delineated the question you answered. It should be labeled A, B, C, D. Everybody didn't, right? And so the idea, if we're gonna compile them, we need to make it efficient and a way to compile it.
Okay, so we're just talking about D, which was where does DSU administration and the academy evidence readiness to lead change, where do they fall short? And we said having an external consultant come here demonstrates a willingness to lead change and also having faculty participate. What did we say? And for the academy side, we talked about the faculty's effort through Faculty Senate in engaging student success, i.e. a readiness to ensure change is happening in the classroom. And then for E, I'm not going to read the question, you all can read it. But the three things that we thought were really important here was communication, transparency, and resources.
Great.
Okay, for question B, we talked about optimal opportunities. So we said there's good collaboration right now between like faculty, senate, and administration. Then we can use that to solicit feedback for readiness to change. We can study other institutions, present ongoing professional development. One idea was a common read for all the leaders here, so we read about leadership development and have those conversations broadly. Get the right leaders into the right place, train the leaders, and do rapid change cycles. So we implement things, assess it, and then we change quickly. So those are all opportunities to change. And then I'll jump to E. We had a bunch of ideas on ideas to increase likelihood of change. We had change the fear culture. Right now there's a lot of fear around trying to do anything, so people hold off on decisions. So trying to change that culture, trying to change a culture that it's okay to disagree, have honest conversations, talk about being okay to fail and how we learn through failure. And then we continue the professional development around that as well.
Hi, good afternoon. All right, I have a fabulous table here of great thinkers. All right, so for number A, our challenges and opportunities. We do have opportunities as academics to serve on various committees, such as Faculty Senate, AUP, and the other committees that your deans may come up. We labeled as a 6-month plan. The challenge, when we talk about for R1, not enough time to change between our teaching and research, and there's very little incentive to make change. That's probably a 24-month plan. There's also lack of transparency, low morale, bureaucracy, email, common themes are coming out. B, why are we doing things from the bottom up, it seems, and we did not like being compared universities versus companies. We're kind of apples to oranges because higher ed has their own issues, which are different. Same as my colleague, sports management is different than just business management. Anyway, C, where does DSU evidence the need and readiness to change? We did have a great idea, the discussion about having professional development, and we really like that, maybe reimagining some of our departments, such as CTL, to include professional development in some of their workshops. That's probably a 6-month plan. Underfunding was some of the issues that kept us with that. We need to look for more endowment money and not just grant money. With D, where does administration readiness to lead? Again, as everyone said, we agreed that there's a lack of transparency, communication issues, empowerment issues. Faculty input is not really strong enough in this goal for R1, and it also takes a long time to get funding here, 24 months. And E, instead of just, what did we say? We're gonna change it to sustainable growth, our block 1, and not just growth. Let's keep it going.
Thank you. Okay, we looked at A, partially B, and then we jumped to D and E. We skipped by C. And we looked at this from a different standpoint. We were looking at it in order of rocks, and so we focused on the rock that talked about sensible growth. And so one of the things that we came up with, not to repeat other people, but we looked at what challenges we personally have, and in that line, we said develop a research plan immediately in order to move toward that research 1 goal. And so each faculty member should develop a 3 to 5 year research plan. And so then we can move forward and look at what prevents us from doing this. And so we looked at what are DSU's optimal opportunities to change. We said that we, at least in the College of Business, and unfortunately our table is all College of Business, we need to teach courses that are more in our field instead of the generalized courses. That way we could use the synergies from teaching a course in our area of research to further our goals with doing our own research. We also said teach in challenging and aligned graduate courses. That could also stimulate our creativity, involve students in research, and we need to be free to focus on developing these opportunities instead of doing too many tasks with teaching load, life, responsibilities other than teaching and academics, okay? And so that was for B. For D, we said the evidence that the institution is willing to do change is, hey, they pay, again, someone mentioned this, but they paid for a consultant to come here. They've also developed a plan to move from R3 to R1. So that's evidence that we're looking to create change. What we said is, where do they fall short? We are too much of a top-down institution instead of working simultaneously. I know you involved other people, but it's still, most of the people here weren't fully aware of what was going on. So that needs to be changed. We also don't feel the trust, okay? And there's not reciprocity. What we mean by that is, you know, it's got to be a give and take instead of giving and we don't get any taking from it, okay? And so, so that's what we mean by that. Then finally, E, we need to look at getting more robust fundraising, and someone mentioned that, at the institutional level as well as gaining money from research grants. And then another thing that we said is let's engage in external stakeholders. Then that way we can look at the long term. Maybe that will lead to additional funding, or maybe it'll lead to additional opportunities. And that's all I have, okay? So who's next?
So our table went in a little different direction, but I think we were trying to understand how the organization would go through change. And really it wasn't until we got to the end of all the questions that we thought about, hey, we're really looking at the big rocks and the strategic plan and how the organization can move seamlessly into working on the strategic plan and even the big rocks. But the first question about the personal challenges, a lot of them felt that we do have a diverse background of faculty here who have skills that can really move the institution forward, but we are experiencing a lot of fatigue. Some of us are aging out, and we need more younger faculty that can have great ideas to move the institution forward that can help us with the change. In number B, where it talks about our optimum opportunities to develop change competencies, and Dr. Darley here came up and asked that question. Yes, we believe that we have a lot of tools that can help us to move a change at our institution. This workshop, again, has been mentioned as one of the areas in which we can continue to get professional development, but we also talked about in our departments and in the colleges where more training can happen, more workshops where we can get more leadership from our chairs and deans in the areas of change, and really transferring that leadership to our faculty where they can also be change leaders. On number C, we talked about the evidence and the need and the readiness for change. And we felt like the administration, well, this is D, excuse me. The administration may need to be a little bit more transparent in how they want us to move forward in terms of communicating with us more frequently. And I had shared with our table that in years past we had more forums monthly, that we discussed a lot of topics. We came together more frequently, and I think COVID really had a lot to do with the lack of us coming together, but it would be great to see that come back. Also, our faculty has to have a willingness to engage, and they need to have a voice. And I think it was brought up from one of the other tables that it shouldn't be a top-down affair. It should be more of a collaboration, a web where we all have an opportunity to voice our opinions and share information. At D, where does the administration, DSU administration and academy show the readiness to lead? I think they show I think we talked about the administration is ready in a lot of ways, but they have not developed the morale of the faculty so they feel that they are a part of the change. And trust also needs to be addressed, as it already has been said. And I think what we said about E, are we ready to increase the likelihood of successful? Okay. Okay. We need more resources and support. So in order to do that.
I'll go next. Good afternoon, everyone. We are a table from languages and literatures and social work and computer science and math, and I think that's us. Okay. So for letter A, the challenges we face, we had limited resources, lack of communication between faculty and administration, and difficulty of forming a consensus among faculty, and we'll touch on that in a later suggestion too, and also a lack of trust between faculty and administration. Opportunities we see, faculty can use academic freedom to try new things, new technologies, new approaches in the classroom. We need to foster inclusion and diversity in the classroom. We thought of also more social opportunities, perhaps during Common Hour or other times where faculty can come together and share their ideas in a casual setting to create more consensus among faculty. And this leads me to our answer for letter B. Opportunities to develop change competencies would be more casual social opportunities for faculty to trade notes and capture information. We see that as part of an authentic shared governance, and that is something that we focused on as well. Admin to be open to more faculty suggestions and prioritize faculty input. And also we thought of there being more incentives to implement change that would make the process go more smoothly. Evidence of the need and readiness to change, willingness to adjust policies, create new policies and junk the old ones, sharing data that underlies new initiatives, that transparency is very important. The campus culture can feel chaotic, and that reflects a need for change. A lack of trust, I think, can lead to too much bureaucratic hierarchy, too many people to sign off on things, and on operations that are relatively simple. So we also thought to allow faculty to have input on non-academic departments and their policies, because it affects us and it affects our students. For letter D, evidence of readiness to change and or fall short, it goes back to transparency. transparency with regard, especially to the budget. We would like to, that have that line of communication more open. And then for letter E, how to increase the likelihood of a successful change initiative. Proactively embrace suggestions and explain how they are being implemented. Again, that open communication, build trust and transparency. Shared governance procedures should be finalized by the faculty, not just, let us know, prioritize our input. And don't make it just, contingent on administration. So those are our ideas. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. So our table was kind of a mix of a lot of different areas. So we had a few. For part A, we felt that our greatest challenges are processes for grants and HR. The issues we found were too many signers often, repeating what the previous group said, out-of-date signer lists. So sometimes we'll send something in and we'll have the wrong signer because we never were informed that it changed. Difficulty finding process owners, which ties in with the previous, delays in processes, and lack of accountability. And the timeline for this is immediate because this is really hampering a lot of operations. A second thing we saw for A was maybe even so that processes can be fulfilled even in the absence of a key signer. So if someone's out of office, that shouldn't bring the entire department down or everyone that depends on them down. So cross-training, we felt that was also falls a little bit in B of opportunities to develop more competencies. So we looked at C next, and what we felt is that we want to see the results of this workshop. We want to see the implementation plan, the timeline, the accountability plan. We want to see the results from this workshop. We want to see the implementation plan, the timeline, the accountability plan, and we want to see the stakeholder responsibilities spelled out. So I think when you talked about collecting all of these papers, that put some smiles on our face. When you talked about collecting our results and compiling it, that put some smiles on our face. So part D, we had some conversation about timely communication and sometimes getting emails from people that we can't help with because they couldn't get a response. So for part D, we felt people fall short in just taking responsibilities for their area of responsibility. We don't think that this belongs to administration. We don't think this belongs to the academy. We think this is just a general issue. No, got a little bit more. Part E, we feel that great evidence would be successfully implementing a small change and reporting back on that success to build buy-in. And that would be a midterm. And then we also feel that using data to evaluate the change and determine whether that change needs more change would be another way we can increase the likelihood of positive results. And then finally, we move back to part B, where we'd like to see transparency and shared information to drive conversation about change.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take that last report over there in the corner, then we'll come back here.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be extremely brief and get through our answers. So for A, we noted the university's continued growth and expansion in terms of our student enrollment and degree programs as opportunities to lead change. However, we are challenged by personnel, financial, and structural resources to do so. So that was our answer for A. For B, we noted the need for more opportunities for professional development like this conference to teach faculty what they need to know in order to be efficient with change competencies. For C, we noted need and readiness for more customer service training, just things that have already been mentioned, having the appropriate people in the appropriate jobs, so knowing faculty knowing what they need to do in terms of their job description, their expectations, making sure that we have people in their appropriate roles and that they understand what they're supposed to be doing in those roles. For D, evidence for readiness to change, we noted the university's vision, what we strive to do in terms of being the most diverse, contemporary, and unapologetic university, and also our strategic plan. Both are evidence of being ready to change. However, everyone not being well-versed in those entities is how we fall short. And then lastly, for E, we just need the full buy-in of all faculty and staff in order to achieve an effective transformation.
Can you hear me? So we echo a lot of the sentiments that have already been shared. So I'm just going to go over some of the highlights that that we didn't get touched on yet. So for point A, we had talked about the idea that we don't feel connected to students, and so we're looking for ways to engage with students in an authentic way and really create that sense of connection and engagement. And we would also love to share that connection engagement, faculty member to faculty member, so some more networking and communication along those lines. And then in B, for opportunities to change our competencies, we have also noted that workshops would be great, more connections and collaborations, more opportunities to work together in smaller groups. And then for C, for evidence of need and readiness, one of the things we've observed is that when everything seems urgent, nothing can be urgent, because if we don't actually have a priorities with something above something else, it becomes impossible to do everything at once. And so clear prioritization and clear communication of that prioritization would be very beneficial. And we are also committed to understanding that why that several people have spoken of today. And what we've observed is that much of the faculty, even the majority, is ready for this change. But one of the things that we would really like is to define some of these terms that we're using. What does change mean? What does transformation mean? And then we would also like to define done. What does it look like when we have changed the culture? What does that look like so we know we have arrived? We actually skipped D, so I'll move on to E. And we're also looking to participate in this conversation through forums and sharing feedback with administration and looking for more opportunities for that collaboration. And we would like a landing page or splash page where a lot of the events and dates and things like that are in one convenient location. We're aware that the calendar exists, but it's not always as up-to-date and accurate as one could hope for. And so something that we could just kind of pop onto and would show us that something has been changed or canceled or rescheduled would be very helpful. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. For the delegation from the center table, we all came to the conclusion that this entire exercise, while the questions were independent in nature, depending on which division, college, or program you were coming from, the responses are symbiotic in nature, meaning that your priorities may vary based upon your perspective of what's going on. But in the biggest thing, we saw that the opportunities for challenges and changes really lies in the fact that every challenge is an opportunity for us to improve the program. And you break it down however way you want to, but all of our challenges are opportunities. And the most optimal opportunities for develop change competencies are embracing the fact that we have most of the resources we need right here. We just haven't acknowledged and recognized them. And as this exercise has shown, giving them the tools to unleash that potential that they currently have. With regard to where does DSU evidence the need and readiness to change? For us, it was very simple. We just need to enhance the connectivity across all our regions as well as with our alums. Remember, we've graduated over 20,000 plus students from our school, and there's little to no connectivity with our alumni base. This is where big PWIs excel. They're able to leverage the collective knowledge, influence, and contributions of their alumni groups to address the challenges that they have. With regard to where does the administration and academy evidence and readiness lead? It's the fact that we're even having this exercise. Everybody is voicing their own individual concerns based upon their perspective of what they have a problem with at the school. If the school wasn't looking and ready to make a change, they never would have given you this platform to have an opportunity to redress your grievances. So we recognize that. And then last, what can the administration and academy do to increase the likelihood? If you're like me, as I pointed out, coming on as a new person, getting an opportunity to step back and see all the new people that have come on board, if you look at their resumes and credentials, the administration is demonstrating not only do they want to make the change, they're bringing in the people that have not only thought leaders to advocate for that change, but also to inspire the rest of the people who've been sitting here with their heads down, waiting for an opportunity to be able to have a voice in the collective process. That's what we saw.
For letter A, for challenges, we have lack of communication, resources, and effective operational procedures. And for opportunities, we have faculty senate and working on committees. For letter B, optimal opportunities to develop competencies, we have ODELT courses and faculty senate. For letter C, evidence of need and readiness to change. We have the release of the Faculty Senate survey. That is an immediate goal. Okay. And for letter D, for the first part, we have the annual Faculty Staff Institute. And for the second part of D, we have run the institution more as an educational entity rather than a political entity. Follow up on suggestions made in the Faculty Staff Institute. And for D, we have listened to faculty, implement suggestions made by the faculty, and remove the fear of retaliation. And this would be our long-term goal.
Hi. We concentrated quite a bit on A, B. So in A, we looked at this personal, and we said, well, the problem is communications, clarity from the top down, transparency, resistance from others, not knowing the culture and environment. How can we personally be a part of change without knowing the culture? In the long range, we can affect change. People are reluctant to throw in their thoughts if they are new to the organization or if immediately shut down and they're not allowed to speak. That's A. So for B, we have the opportunities are there. There are meetings. Meetings should not be merely venting sessions, but involve action. Many people are not there. People should have meetings seriously. They should take meetings seriously. Some people who are there sometimes are not willing to take any responsibility. Overall level of discussion within the group dynamic and focus on one mission will develop change competencies. Develop competencies with familiarity. So remember, we're taking this from personal levels of faculty, and so when we get to C, we said if there is a need, it should be recognized, and even though there's no evidence there's a need for many things to happen, if DSU is going to try to double its enrollment. So we used enrollment doubling as an example of why C is relevant. But there really is no evidence. If we are not communicating or hearing or sharing, then we're not really being heard. There is evidence of a need for change based on goals. Okay, so I'm at D. So in D, basically, what we have is that there's so much new technology out there that we really are falling a little short. And then in E, the likelihood of success is based on listening, adhering to the strategic plan, taking action, and all of these things can increase the likelihood of change.
Thank you. Okay, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. afternoon. Hello, hello. My name is Albie Mendoza. I'm from the psychology department from the Wesley College of Behavioral and Health Sciences. So we are echoing a lot of the points that everybody made earlier. And we wanted to add lack of resources, lack of communication, lack of structure. That was already explained, but we also wanted, because we're psychology, right? We like to build relationships. We also said that a lot of what we can work on together starts within the departments, all faculty helping each other, talking to each other, communicating with each other, building each other up. And then that will trickle down to our colleges so that we don't have a culture of competition, but cooperation instead. And then that would also filter to between campuses. We have a downtown campus now, we have a main campus, and we need to have more cooperation, collaboration together. Ta-da, that is it. All right, I'm gonna run over here to give it to Brody. All right. I'm coming, Brody. Fantastic.
I guess I could
I'll
have
just
said I
stand
have
next
it,
to you.
so.
All right.
Okay, so much of what's been said we also discussed, so I'll highlight just a couple items. One thing that has come up several times is processes, and our recommendation is to define the processes, all of them, in one central location, but really getting at the fact that there, as was stated, are often way too many sign-offs, and that by the time we learn a process, that now, a week later after everyone finally learned it, there's a new process for the process. And with this, and the real target for addressing this is that our innovative ideas for change from 3 months ago are sitting in someone's queue today. And so it stymies our opportunity to really implement that change. One thing that came up with communication flow is that oftentimes it does happen, but by the time it gets from top down, that many faculty who are continually overloaded are so burnt out that it's hard to absorb and digest that communication by the time it gets to you in its fullness. And so having a different approach with communication where there is either a system or a time to be able to absorb and process that. And the last thing I'll highlight from communication we had, or from discussions we had, is with the R1 status goal. And the metaphor came up, and I'll try and capture it, but a car metaphor of we're aiming for R1, which is the nice, blinged out Mercedes, but currently that's not what we can afford. Maybe we need to have first defined getting a nice Tahoe and what the steps are to get there. So in other words, what does that mean? When is the goal to get to R1? Is that 10 years from now? And then the steps between now and then. When do we have the goal to get from M2 to M1 to R2? And have the capacity where we feel like we can achieve that. Having that stated goal of R1 feels like we're again aspiring to do something that we don't have the current capacity to do, and it becomes an overwhelm instead of, what can we achieve and when we achieve it by. Those are a few of the highlights. I'm sure I missed many more, but thanks.
Right, thank you. So here's the email address, and put number 19 on yours. It's the 19th report. Okay, so guys, we are in the home stretch. I'd just like to do one other thing before I take my seat.